The Shins, Oh Inverted World debut album, released on June 19th, 2001 to critical acclaim. The album contains the songs Caring is Creepy and Moose Slang, both of which appeared in the 2004 film Garden State, which we know is the greatest film that was ever made in the history of the entire world. Oh Inverted World placed number 35 on the Paz and Jop Critics poll, which
what is that?
Who the hell? I don't know. Never heard of it. Online music magazine Pitchfork placed Oh Inverted World on the number 115 on their list of 200 albums of the 2000s. So, again, another never heard of it. The project began as a way to explore 3-minute pop songs with conventional chord structures. Much of the album was required prior to the Sub Pop deal in Mercer's basement. So, what's his name? James Mercer?
James Mercer.
He's the main dude. He recorded in his basement. Then he got a deal with Sub Pop, who did Nirvana and other bands. So, New Slang proved to be a stealth hit, helping Oh Inverted World move over 100,000 copies within 2 years. Considered remarkable for an independent label, Sub Pop had hoped that the album would sell 10,000 copies. So, wow.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a lot.
For an album recorded in your basement by one dude, you know, those crop up from time to time in music, but it just keeps happening, you know? If you put out, I mean, it's my opinion, if you record a good album, it doesn't matter whether it's recorded well in a multi-million-dollar studio or it's recorded well on a 4-track Tascam in your bedroom. Good songs, right? Like if you took, let's take Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
Right. Take those songs and put it in a shed with 4 microphones, one pointed at the drums and one at the, a couple at the guitar amps, and Axel's got a mic. You think it's still gonna hit pace? You think it'll still be a hit album or hit-ish album?
Hit-ish.
Hit-ish?
Yeah.
All right.
Like, this didn't sell a billion records like some of the other albums we talked about. It was an undergroundy thing that popped up to the surface and crossed over and got into a movie and sold more than they expected, but so it was recorded in the basement. And the first things that really struck me is like the drums change every song. And my first thought was it sounded like I thought they'd recorded this in their mum's kitchen. And like mum would go to work in the morning, they'd set up the drums and record everything. And then at night, mum would come home and they'd have to put everything away so mum could cook dinner. And then the next day they're bringing everything out and then they'd forget where they positioned everything. And so everything sounds totally different from song to song. So those drums in particular, they're so different all over the place. I found it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this is a record where, my history with it, I was in the States in 2003 and 2003, 2004, somewhere in there, like a couple of years after this thing came out. You said it was 2001, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I?
And
yeah.
Hey, I'm sure you did. And, somebody there just recommended, hey, you should check out the Shins. It was the Shins and another band that you'd hate, Iron and Wine, right? The real folky stuff. Now, like, check out these bands. And because I thought this person was cool, I was like, these must be cool. I checked them out and it just, right place, right time album, right? And I just put it on at the start and I listened to it all the way through. This is, summer in America, love and life, meeting good people. and this was one of the albums that was there. And so, on re-listening to it for this, I just put it on at track 1. And I listened to it all the way to the end. And then I go, oh, yep, there's the song that was on Garden State, New Slang, whatever was the big hit. But to me, it's just one album. I just put it on and listen to it. And I don't, it's almost like you don't differentiate. Like you were saying, you listen to the different drum sounds. To me, I'm not hearing it. I'm just hearing the album. Just sort of goes from one end to the other. And there's no highlight. There's not many peaks and flows. It's just the Shins is on. It's good. It's catchy little jingles, but there's no, I wouldn't be able to say to you, hey man, if you listen to the Shins, you got to listen to Caring is Creepy or something. I don't even remember the track titles. I'm just like, it's the Shins. It's the Bluish album, Oh Inverted World, put it on. It's in the background. Just good memories.
If you like one song, you'll like all of it, really, isn't it? Like,
yeah, absolutely. If you like the style, yeah. And it's like,
for me, you just put it on, like you say, you play it from beginning to end. If you like the first song, you're going to like the whole album. There's not, there's variation. There's slow songs, there's fast songs.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of the same spirit the whole way through, isn't it? Like,
sure.
There's nothing that throws you out of it and goes, oh, that doesn't belong there. Well, that's a bit
right.
weird, or it's deviated. It's all just a constant flow. And there's a couple of standout tracks, but there's nothing. And there's the good tracks, but there's no bad, really, is there?
That's right.
It's all just clicks along.
I think it's a good solid listen. And the way I think of the Shins is I go upbeat music, like it's all quite poppy and rhythmic, but then the lyrics are real sort of melancholy, like real melancholy. And but it fits that juxtaposition of the two. The thing that with the Shins, I think they're like 5 or 6 albums into their career now. Now I probably would have I stuck with them for 3 albums. I've seen them live a couple of times. Great live band, man. We saw them in Auckland at the Power Station, and they smashed it. They had obviously, there's James Mercer, and it was the original 3 other guys, and then a couple of sort of, percussionists and keyboard musicians or whatever. But it was just a wicked sound, and they were great. But then I found after their 3rd record, it was sort of the same sound, just recorded better. How this one was done in the mum's kitchen and they had to pack everything up. In the second album, they were at, Sub Pop was footing the bill and it was slightly better recorded, same kind of songs. And then the 3rd one, they had heaps of money and it's perfectly recorded, but it's the same stuff, just recorded better. And so there was no evolution. And so I bailed. I don't know what they're doing now. I know they've done a couple more albums, but I don't think I've even heard their latest stuff. It's because I felt like they weren't going anywhere.
I've dug some information on that. It's an interesting thing. I've heard some guys I follow, he's in a lot of bands, and he normally does maybe 1, but sometimes 2 or 3 albums with the band and moves on because he's like, just runs out of steam after a while. Like you've heard that combination of musicians together.
Yeah.
They've done everything they can. They just knock it on the head and go on to another project. And I guess that's what you're saying with the Shins is they just kept repeating.
There's no evolution. I guess they were like, this is the formula that's got us, our Sub Pop record label, and this is the formula that's got us in movies, and this is the formula that keeps people, streaming on Spotify or whatever. Which works sometimes, I suppose. But if you want, I like music that continues to challenge you and grows, like, fuck. You think of, go classic, go the Beatles, right? No, it's almost it's almost cliched now, though. But right, you got 10 years or 8 years even, 62 to 69, when they recorded those 10 albums, and they went from fucking Love Me Do to Sergeant Pepper. In the space of 4 years, 5 years. So now modern, that's right.
Yeah.
Modern bands, they're putting out let's say roughly an album every 2 years or 3 years. And in the case of the Shins, since 2001 to now, 2021, it's the same sound, which I don't know. You want to be challenged, but then you also have to stay within the realms of what you've created as a band. I mean, you can go off too far and lose listeners that way. So you've got to have some restraints. And I mean, I guess, we've talked about Metallica. Metallica's always been Metallica, really, right? The only thing they changed was their production, like Saint Anger or whatever, I suppose, would have been the biggest left field that turned off even hardcore fans, right? You have to admit, Saint Anger is probably the lower of the Metallica albums.
I don't know how much I want to deviate away from the Shins in this, but there was a big progression in Metallica. Like maybe, to my heavy metal ears, it was pretty thrash metal, and then more refined thrash metal, then more refined again.
So there was change.
Black Album.
There was growth, right?
Yeah, they slowed it all down and shortened the songs and made it a bit more accessible.
Cool, but they're still within that hard rock framework, right?
Yeah. Load was more pentatonic scale-based written songs. Saint Anger went their new metal kind of away, and now they're back to their roots again, kind of a thing. Like there is a lot of change.
So in reflection with that, you're saying the change, and then if we go to the Shins, they're just the Shins, right? You go Metallica. Metallica had its thrash metal phase, and it had its hard rock phase, it had its grunge phase, and then it had its, I don't know what it's in now, it's epic cinematic phase. But the Shins are like, here's a Shins album, great, I know exactly what I'm getting. It's just the Shins.
But it got old for you.
Yeah, real fast. Yeah, I think, well, but much like anything, every musical genre, every artist has its place. Like I'm a massive Bob Dylan fan, but I'm not going to every day go, fuck yeah, I'm slapping on Blood on the Tracks, because it doesn't fit the mood, right? I think the Shins is a big mood band.
Yeah, is it more of the same in the later albums, but they didn't have the special hit single for you? Like that special song that stands out, like New Slang, like on this album where you...
like I said, listening to this album, it's the album. There's no standout track. New Slang I only pointed out because it was in Garden State, and it was sort of singled out in that, in the classic scene where boy meets girl, and that song's, the defining moment in that scene. So that's why it's memorable. But I couldn't sit here without a track listing in front of me and pick out, hey, track 3 is this and track 7 is this. I don't know. Just put on the album.
I'd have that trouble with that too, but being kind of more like the hard rock metal kind of a dude, for me, New Slang is the song that you hear and you go, oh, that's a brilliant song, and draws you in.
Mm-hmm.
It's the single. And the rest of them, there's good ones. There's ones that stood out a bit more to me, like Caring is Creepy is another one. But then there's a few others where it's just kind of the background tracks that get you through, and they're good. And they're good. They're really good.
But you have to admit, we can say, write a song in the style of the Shins. It's pretty unique, right? The Shins is kind of the Shins. It's hard to compare. That's what I found real refreshing when I first heard them. It was real lo-fi pop, but with a little bit of a grungy aesthetic to it. But, it was kind of the indie hipper Weezer once Weezer went mainstream. I don't know. That's what I enjoyed about the Shins. They were just well-crafted songs. The dude obviously has, some musical talent. And yeah, right place, right time, for sure.
So, was this the Sellout album, Brad? James Mercer was positive in licensing the song to a variety of media, talking about New Slang, confirming to New York Times he received more money from touring and licensing than record sales. New Slang was featured in McDonald's advert that aired during the 2002 Winter Olympics, which led to criticism from several corners, among those independent music fans and the band's own hometown. Yeah, so they made money and people got pissed off with them.
Yeah. Oh no, it's tall poppy
Shocking.
syndrome. No, nobody
How
likes
dare they
people
want to
making
eat
money. How dare
food?
they? Yeah.
God,
How dare they? I think
scumbags.
any struggling new band should be allowed to haul themselves out to whatever they want. If you've got a song that McDonald's wants to use and they want to pay you X amount of money, sweet Lord Jesus, put some money in your bank account. If
This
you know,
would have been
if
the peak of downloading, like LimeWire and all that stuff. Your album's getting
yeah,
ripped off on the internet. The only way to make money is touring and the licensing.
damn right. And if
Yeah.
you're a nobody, right? If you're in little hometown, I don't know where they're from. Are they Seattle? Jeez, who knows? If you're a bumpkin nobody and you're not selling any records, you're going to make money if you want to be in the industry. Pull yourself out.
Yeah. I think it sucks that people think musicians are the only people in the world that shouldn't make money or they're not serious about what they're doing.
Mm. Well, I think of remember Bikrunga, right? She had
No one
I
in
don't
the
know, I
world
can't
knows who
remember
you're talking about.
exactly. But she, independent New Zealand artist who somehow got her song in fucking American Pie soundtrack. And now she's living in Paris and living a good life, all off revenue from that one stinking song. Well,
Yeah.
so it seems.
So it looks
Can't
like
back
Garden
that up with any
State was
paperwork.
particularly good with them for them. New Slang was repurposed when it was prominently featured in the film Garden State. And a scene from the film, Natalie Portman tells Zach Braff, "This song will change your life." Mercer says the song changed everything for the group, causing the first two albums to sell more than twice what they had sold prior to the film's debut. Almost overnight, the Shins became indie rock icons.
Thanks, Zach Braff.
Zach Braff. Yeah.
I like the film. It's a good film. Future episode of the podcast. But
Can't remember it. I don't know if I saw it.
It's, you know what? Garden State is exactly what you'd expect from a fanboy of the Shins making a film. That's kind of what it feels like. All the music in it is that similar lo-fi, sub-pop soundtrack. So I can see why it hit a chord with, so many people. And then that pivotal scene has that song and everybody goes, oh, the cool guy from Scrubs and Natalie Portman are telling me I should like this music. I'm going to go buy it. And that's what happened. And then, those people buy it, like it, feel part of a scene, tell their friends to like it. Exactly what happened with me. You get pulled in. Oh, this is what the hip people are listening to. It's the fucking Shins. And I still feel cool that I say I listen to the Shins.
You didn't find it through the Garden State movie or someone recommending it to you?
No, someone recommended it to me, and that was so I had the Shins and Iron and Wine, and then when that film came out on DVD, I picked it up because they were in the soundtrack, and then it turned out to be a good film. So I was kind of reversal, but I'm pretty sure that my friend that got me into it got it from Garden State. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it was
I think you gave me the CDs, and I
probably
listened to them for a bit and came back, and I was really into them for a while, and then I sort of forgot about them.
Yeah.
But
that's it.
They're really cool.
Yeah. It's just that's still what I think the Shins is now. They're a bigger band, major label, blah blah blah. World touring band when we could travel the world, but it's still like a good record passed amongst friends. That's still the Shins. You couldn't walk out, go to a dinner party and say, hey everybody, aren't the Shins great? 90% of people are going to go, who the fuck are the Shins, right?
I think
So
you could
it's
give
still,
it to 90% of people and they'll go, I like it. Like
yeah,
if you're a
absolutely.
metalhead, if you're a reggae guy, if you're into country, if you're into whatever, you'd go, that's a good band.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people would struggle with with this record, Oh Inverted World, the most because it's the least produced. It's real lo-fi, but that's the appeal, I think, or was for me, is that it sounded like these guys had recorded it. And I was like, fuck, and it's recorded well and those songs are great. Whereas your average music listener, they want the polished sound in order to connect with it more.
You're not really given the choice because people seek out live albums and all that stuff, and they've got that spontaneity, and they're a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I saw the Shins live, man. They did like Pink Floyd covers and all sorts of stuff. Like they were just real. What I enjoyed about the show is that they dirtied up a lot of the songs. So the stuff off Oh Inverted World just sounded so much thicker and crunchier, and it was almost like guitar tones were what you'd think of, like the Blue Album guitar tone. There was a lot of that, like real crunchy, weighty distortion. And it just made, especially the songs off this record and the second one, I remember going, oh, man, this song, I've never heard it sound so good. And then going back and listening to the album going, I wish this had the guitars from the live show, because that was, they nailed it for sure.
And so having worked on the Shins for nearly a decade, Mercer felt exhausted and ready to quit the band. And something about he was in the middle of everything revolving around him, all the friendship dynamics and stuff. And so anyway, he sacked everyone in the band and he just hired temp people to hang around the background.
Power move.
Yeah, he slashed and burned. Just killed everyone and said, I'm sick of your problems, basically. I guess.
Well, I guess when you're the brainchild, you're the star, but you've used a moniker of the Shins. It is just James Mercer and friends, but he's called it the Shins, right? And so here's all his songs. He'd go into his mum's kitchen and he'd lay out his Pro Tools or his whatever he was using, and he's written everybody's parts. It's like, right, there's the guitar. I know what I'm doing there, and I'm singing. I know what the drums are going to do, but I can't play the drums. So, John, can you come in and play the drums on Friday, please? Here's your part. And John would come in and play his part. And then he needs the bass player. So those were the core 4 guys. 3 of them are just playing what they're told to do. And then they did it again the second time around. And I don't know, it must have been the third or maybe after that, where, he fired everybody. And I guess he could, because he was the main songwriter and probably making all the money, and just went, screw you guys, I'm going to get some better players.
Well, being a band, you might have been splitting the money 4 or 5 ways, and this way you can just pay people $50 a week and $10 per diem and keep it all for himself.
Well, I always wondered, there's bands like Bush, where there's only, they're still going and pumping out albums and having hits, but it's just Gavin Rossdale and friends. It doesn't matter who's behind him.
He got rid of everyone,
Bush.
did he?
That's right. Yeah, he did. Oh, maybe the drummer's the same. I don't know. But yeah, most of the band's gone. But he's, he is Bush, right? So he can do what he wants.
Yeah. I watched some interviews with Mr. Mercer. He said that he enjoyed the idea, he enjoyed the works of people who were the auteur, the control of it, but hid behind the facade of being a band. And he wanted to do that. So he basically wanted all the control. He's writing the songs. He's the voice. You can replace the other musicians and get away with it. He also says big regret from this album was the drum sound. He really hates it. He would like to redo that. But he's basically locked down in COVID now and been enjoying his time, and his wife's a decorator or something. And he's going out on tour again with the Shins in the coming 22.
All right. If
Yeah.
22 is not a dumpster fire like 20 and 21 are.
There's not going to be riots or reinvasion of Afghanistan or infectious diseases. It's going to be perfect.
Maybe the Shin should tour the Middle East. Maybe that would solve problems.
That'll fix them.
All right, we deviate.
So
skip.
Yeah, I was just going to say skippability.
Yeah, it's a 0 for me, man, because I just put it on and get to the end. I can't think of, I might, if I put it on, I might get halfway through and then just turn it off, because I'm going to do other things. But generally with the Shins, I'm just chucking on an album and going. Like their later albums, second and third, yep, I know there's songs I want to play more than others. But this one, as I said, it's just the album song, really. Put it on, leave it on.
Pretty much the same thing, except your algebra. That strikes me as there was a trend at the time where you'd have the ambient music song that kind of and it was all a bit hippy dippy trippy acid trip,
and
it sort of fades in, wobbles around, and fades out again. But it's only 2.5 minutes long. Like you don't really.
That's right,
and it's not out of character.
That's right. It's like a little bridge in the middle of the album.
It's kind of like, for me, my finger would kind of hover over the skip button, but then I'd think, it's only got another minute left or something.
Yeah, you'd think about walking across the room and pushing the button, but then you think it's too far.
Yeah. I kind of noticed with this, I'd let this album run, and then after a while, I'd realize Spotify's just flipped on to the next album, and you can't really tell the beginning and the end of it all.
Yep.
It's just the thing I noticed was this is recorded well. Oh, it's another album. But it's them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a good place to start with the Shins is the first album. You just start at the start and work your way through, for sure. But skippability of all the tracks, it's clean for me, mate. Absolutely clean.
Yeah, I'd say finger hover over the skip button on your algebra, but
all right.
But New Slang would be the song that I would just listen to over and over again.
Yeah, it's a good one. I based my first test recording at the School of Audio Engineering. We had to do a home studio recording and then make a speech out of it. And I tried to replicate the what's the instrument? The tambourine sound from New Slang, which is essentially just a soft hit tambourine with masses of reverb on it. And I was successful. I got 98%. So fuck you, Dan. Good story.
What did I do?
Nothing. Whenever I tell one of my stories, it gets to the end of it and you're like, you got a point to that story?
That was one time and there was no point to that story. But this story had reverb in it, so it had me like just clinging to every syllable of every word. That was really interesting.
Hey, that reverb draws you into the space.
When should do another one of these and you can talk more about reverb?
Sure. We have to find another song that has just as much reverb as the tambourine on New Slang.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. We could probably do a whole episode just on reverb throughout the years.
Sure. Natural.
He's got quite a haunting voice,
digital.
doesn't he?
Yes. I concur with your statement.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the standout thing for me is his voice just carries it, doesn't it? A lot. And I was impressed with the guitar work as well. It's a lady on guitar on this album. She does a really good job. The electric guitars.
Oh, I didn't know it was a lady. Well, there you go. I learned something.
Well, I assume so because I watched a Letterman performance and there was a lady on guitar. I thought she's really, really good.
Maybe it was just one of the guns for hire that he hires behind himself.
I mean, it could be. I think I saw a lineup list, and there was a lady folk on the guitar machine. But yeah.
Mm.
Oh well. The
I'm
Shins
trying
Oh
to.
Inverted World. What do you give it out of 604?
At a 604, probably like a 562. Like a great album, but I wouldn't put it in my top 20. You know what I mean? And put it on, listen to it, but it's got to be, you got to be in the mood for the Shins.
Ah, it's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, it comes down to that thing where you play it for a while, you love it madly, and then you kind of forget
Mm.
about it.
Yep. Bang on. You got it.
Nothing wrong with it,
No, nothing wrong at all.
but you're getting it over and over again. Um,
It's like, do you want pizza every night of the week for dinner? Pizza's great. I love pizza, but I don't want it all the time.
it's those albums you listen to on headphones and you hear something new every time. This isn't
No.
it. It's
You
straightforward.
can hear James Mercer's mum cooking in the background when you listen with headphones on.
Well, 600. Yeah, I'd give it the 484 and a half, something like that.
Right.
Out of
So
600. Yeah,
it's over halfway.
it's three quarters isn't it? Oh, yeah. I think we've described how we feel about it. It's really
Here's
good.
what
There's nothing wrong with it.
So I was trying to think, I'd lost my train of thought before. The Shins, what made them what I enjoyed about the Shins at first is that I had no idea who they were, who James Mercer was. There was no face to the band. All I had was an album, and that appealed. They're not on all the magazine covers. There's not all the backstory. There's not who he's having sex with. It was just like a faceless group of dudes making music. And I was like, this appeals. It's kind of like, when you discover a new band, you don't know anything about them, and you're thirsty for information, and there's some mystery there, right? You don't know who these people are. And I think that made the Shins better. And once I learnt, I saw pictures of James Mercer, I was like, oh, he's a bit of an odd looking guy. And it sort of changes your view of the band and of the record. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever had a band like that where it's when they're faceless, it's better?
I actually remember listening to Metallica for years, and then I saw, oh, shut up, Siri. Shut up. Okay. I remember listening to the Metallica for years, and then someone had a live album of Metallica, and you heard James Hetfield just speaking. It was the first time I just heard him speak, and I was just like, wow. I didn't know what to make. It shook me for days.
Huh? Yeah, in a bad way. Yeah, that's it.
I think, I don't know what it was, but his voice was a little bit higher than I expected. Sure. He's got a really low voice, but it was just,
it changes your perspective of the band, right? It's like Tool, right? I fucking love Tool. And again, their appeal, and it's still now, their appeal back in the mid-90s when they came out was you didn't know who they were. It was all dark. It was mysterious, right? There was something about it. You could create your own backstory to the band, and these guys are 100% a part of the music, and it all blends together. But then now you look at Tool, Maynard's a fucking wine grower, and all their photos, the drummers in a sports singlet and shorts, it just doesn't match the music. Was when you're a kid and listening to a new album, it's all connected, and you want these people who are creating the music to be what you imagine them to be. They're a part of it, not it's just Jim from down the road who likes to shoot hoops.
Yeah, I think social media has taken away a lot of mystery.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. Why did we ever think they weren't just regular folk? Yeah.
I mean, I
You
still
build
like to
them up
think
in
they're
your
not.
mind.
I still like to think they're not. You know, if you can take the time to sit down and create arts like some of these guys do, that's something special. That's not every day. Sure, you're a person and you shit like everybody else, but you create music better than you know
Yeah.
the great unwashed for sure.
Yeah. I saw people talking about this the other night where they were laughing about seeing James from Metallica holding his wife shopping and wearing flip flops and shorts, and they're,
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
they're
But that's
laughing
not
at
the
him.
image. That's it. The image, I think, image and music is almost inseparable. You know, I think
Yeah,
it's always going to be part of the package. You know,
yeah,
how you present yourself as part of the music. So, I mean, if I saw, you know, I mean, why doesn't James come out on stage in his flip flops with his wife to play his gigs? You know, because you've got a character to get into when you're on stage, right? It's a play, it's a performance.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, the Shins, Oh Inverted World, get it up here. Go and put it on your headphones, Spotify. Check it out.
Yeah, it's
Highly recommended.
free. It's free. Yeah.
It's free.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to Pointless and Confused. We believe there's a little thing where you can send a tip if you
Yep.
want. We
Yeah,
have
you
no
can tip
idea
us.
how it works.
We need cash
Yeah. For whores.
and Vegemite.
Yeah. And what
Good
did you want
day.
to say? No. You
Oh,
gotta
right.
tell them the other thing.
Oh, what was the other thing?
Subscription.
Look, you could subscribe if you want to, if you want to hear the sound of our sweet, sweet voices in your ear. Whenever a new episode drops, you'll be the first to know.
Yeah, we're not sure how you do that either, but you'll figure it out.
We're new to this. Come on, you guys.